Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. I greet you in the name of peace. Shukran for joining us on this week's An Nur the Light. The role of nurses is often overlooked, but we're changing that. Join us as we learn more about Sister Hanifa Ali and her caregivers who fulfill a thankless job.
Hanifa Ali is well known in the South African nursing community as a leader and role model to all. Her passion for nursing has allowed her to fulfill her purpose by dedicating her life to helping others.
I entered the nursing profession in 1968. There was a call for nurses to be trained at R.K. Khan Hospital in 1968. And yes, my dad was not very interested in letting his daughter go that far. And the family doctor then got my father and my mother together to have a chat with them, and we started embarking on this career.
The Islamic Medical Association operates 4 on-site primary healthcare clinics and 1 mobile healthcare clinic in the disadvantaged areas of KZN. Sister Hani, as she's affectionately known, spearheads many of these clinics as they cater to much-needed medical care in these communities.
I worked with the public health sector and became involved with freedom fighting. And I had to leave the country because I was being watched by the police, and then decided I would move over to Cape Town, but I became worse with my freedom fighting, and I then had to leave the country. I went off to Dallas, Texas, worked there, and coming back from there, I had to work in a low-profile job. I was invited to America to present a paper on South African nursing. I then asked the Islamic Medical Association to sponsor me. They said they would, but I would have to get involved with their programs. I became a member of the IMA, and I then was asked to help with getting the clinics set up according to health requirements, because this is an NGO and we were helping people at no cost initially. And we then had to get the clinic upgraded, the facilities, the equipment, the supplies to meet the legal standards for a healthcare institution.
Over the years, Sister Hani has received many awards and accolades as testament to the great work she does. She leads from the front as head of training for the IMA and has been a mentor to many young nurses.
I like upskilling people, especially the disadvantaged, and I'd like to upskill them where they in turn can help their communities. And that to me is beneficial. And hence, I would like to get people upskilled in home-based care, because every home has a patient at some time or another. And rather than take every case to a hospital or a clinic and wait many hours, you can then treat them at home. And while they're ill, you learn how to bath them, feed them, get them out of bed, exercise them, and also give them medicines according to time and the prescription itself. And and they know when to refer them for further help, because I find most people have problems with understanding their condition, understanding the fact that not every illness needs to be taken to a doctor, and hence home-based care is very important in my life.
Sister Ali was a freedom fighter and continues to fight for the interest of people in disadvantaged areas, earning her the title Ma Ali. She is known on a personal level by many in these communities as she gives selflessly to ensuring that they are cared for through her home-based care programs.
We have 4 primary health care clinics, and one of them is in Al-Gazzi. And what happened was, while running these clinics, we found people coming in great poverty with a need for health education, with a need for assistance in many ways, because it's a very informal settlement. I then decided we'll apply for some funding to get a home-based care program where we'd educate the unemployed men and women, girls and boys, on home-based care, so that caring can begin from within the community. It's now grown from that. It's grown to incorporating people from all different areas that come in to run the home-based care program. And what really helps me is the fact that I run a practical course, and that's 2 weeks of practicals after completing the 2 weeks of theory. I then use these workers or students to get out into the community and get the practical orientation on patients, on deserving patients. So that helps then the patients themselves.
Hanifa Ali's selfless dedication to helping the sick and forgotten is a testament to the duty all Muslims have to one another. The lives she has touched will outlive her, and her healing hand lives on through the mentorship programs, training facilities and clinics she has built. Her legacy will remain in the hearts of all the communities she has touched.
I'm sure that story will have you look at nurses in a completely new light, and rightly so. We should do more to honor those in the service industry, even if it's just by saying thank you.
Carving its own unique groove on the African business calendar is the Inspire Trade Expo, South Africa's exclusive business-to-business furniture, decor and design trade exhibition. The exhibition is open to interior designers, decorators and architects to showcase the latest trends in furniture and decor. The 10th annual SABC Education African Edu Week brings together local and international educational professionals and innovative global education suppliers. Entrance is free and visitors will have access to a range of technical workshops and edu theatre sessions. Voice of the Cape's Cover Mode presents the 2016 Modest Fashion Emporium. Sample from a selection of jewelry, makeup and clothing stores at the Cape Town International Convention Centre. The event is open to emerging businesses looking to build awareness around their brand. Book your space. The 21st International AIDS Conference takes place in Durban this year, a platform for structured dialogue and groundbreaking scientific developments in the fight against the HIV pandemic. The conference is the premier gathering for policymakers and medical professionals working in the field of HIV medicine. Step into a world of dream homes and go-to gadgets at this year's East Coast Radio House and Garden Show. Visitors can look forward to a one-of-a-kind shopping experience with more than 300 exhibitors offering a range of products from tiles, taps to flower pots and linen.
Ramadan is around the corner. Households are finalizing their preparations, and we're getting ready to observe the month of fasting. Fires sow destruction in their wake, and the Western Cape in particular suffers greatly during its annual fire season. We got to spend some time with the volunteer wildlife services and saw some real-life heroes.
The volunteer wildfire services have been successfully combating fatal runaway fires since 1999. This highly efficient non-profit organization is 100% run and managed by a team of 222 dedicated volunteers, all willing to risk their lives fighting some of the wildest fires Cape Town and the Western Cape have ever seen.
Brief history of the volunteer wildfire services. The organization started in 1999 with the regional station at Newlands in Cape Town after the devastating fires in the Cape Peninsula in that year. 10 years after that, we started VWS Jonkershoek, that's the valley that we're in. Everyone is a volunteer, from the chairman of the board right down to the critical support members and the firefighters. Our partners, we're partnered with SAMParks, Table Mountain National Park, in the Cape Peninsula, Cape Nature, as well as Overberg District Municipality. And we respond to mainly wildfires, and most of those wildfires are in mountainous areas.
With stations in Newlands, Jonkershoek, South Peninsula and Grabo, the VWS works closely with other fire management emergency service organizations, such as Table Mountain National Park, Cape Town Fire and Emergency Services, Disaster Management, the Fire Brigade and Working on Fire, and have to date achieved over 56,000 active firefighting hours, protecting South African citizens and our invaluable natural heritage.
I'm an active firefighter. That's my role, and I am deployed on the fire line to help out with various fire situations that may occur. And also part of our role is we might have to help other crews that are on the line and other departments that are within the South African firefighting community. Being a firefighter, there's definitely a level of danger and excitement that goes along with it. Seeing huge flames can be quite intimidating sometimes, but I think that and learning the skills that you do is also quite an important thing. So you adapt and you use those skills and you kind of endure and you kind of grow as an individual often. And being outdoors, it's just an amazing thing. I mean, you see things that no one else would ever see, and you experience things that generally the great and general public doesn't get to see, like huge fires and being on the fire line.
After signing up, volunteers are trained in firefighting techniques, education and awareness programs, and prescribed fire planning, equipping the volunteers with the skills and operational knowledge that will help them prepare for an emergency at a moment's notice throughout the year.
One of the biggest challenges was getting used to the heat on the fire line. For me, I kind of like to be in a cool place and be kind of chilled, but being on a fire line is quite a hectic and quite stressful environment to be in, and to get used to that is quite an important thing, and your teammates help you out and they give you encouragement and a lot of advice on like how to deal with certain situations on the fire line, because on the fire line situations change so often and you have to figure out how to adapt to those situations and hopefully get out safely and put out the fire.
I think the biggest impact that we had, in the public eye at least, is through the Cape Fire last March. From the public's perspective at least, that was the biggest contribution I think we've made in terms of man hours, in terms of crews that we put out on the fire line and general service to the community. And well, that's the side of the firefighting the public sees. If it's a fire out around Worcester, around Breda River, that could be burning for 10 days and we could have free crews going out to that fire. The public doesn't really see that, it doesn't make the news. But just because it doesn't make the news doesn't mean the fire isn't burning. But in terms of community support, definitely Cape Fire last year was probably the biggest fire we've had in our recent history.
The Volunteer Wildlife Services consists of various departments. These include firefighters, drivers, planning and mobile command, logistics, technical and mechanical services and administration, all ensuring that the VWS is run at its optimum.
We don't have any restrictions besides you need to be medically fit and you need to be at least 18 years of age. Other than that, we train during winter. Everybody retrains, so if you're wearing a yellow shirt and you're already a member from the previous fire season, you're required to do your training again with new members. It builds a stronger team, as well as improves the level of training in the organization. Otherwise, fire doesn't discriminate, and neither do we, so we welcome everybody.
Being Muslim and learning from the Quran, it teaches us to be selfless and be humble and help out, and to always remember that we're part of a greater community and we all are one. And if one part of that community is suffering, we should definitely help out. And I think that's where I think it's an important aspect for me to actually help out and help people and help the greater community in any way I can.
It's time now for our wellness segment with Dr. Nehal de Vries. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Nehal, and welcome back to An Nur.
Wa alaikum salam, Maryam.
Hypertension awareness caught our attention, and we'd like to find out more. So tell us, what is hypertension?
Hypertension is a condition where there is an increased pressure in your arteries. And over time, it causes damage to the lining of the artery as well as damage to vital organs. I like to use the analogy, for instance, just to explain. It's like a frail pipeline and you're pushing a high-pressure hose pipe through that. Now, luckily for us, our vessels don't burst, but there are factors that patch the blood vessel up, causing narrowing of that particular vessel.
What are the risk factors to hypertension?
Just before we get into the risk factors, so blood pressure is measurable. So the normal blood pressure is 120/80, and it can go up until 140/90. And then a diagnosis of high blood pressure is made when you have where it's basically persistently high, above 140/90. The risk factors for developing hypertension is age. So the older we get, the more we are at risk to develop high blood pressure. Obesity, also lifestyle choices like excessive salt intake in our foods, alcohol, smoking. There's also medical conditions that we can have concurrently, like renal disease, kidney disease, as well as thyroid disease.
Now, you mentioned excessive salt intake, but what about sugars?
Sugar doesn't really play a role with high blood pressure, but we need to watch our sugar intake to control diabetes so that we don't have increased acceleration to develop strokes and heart attacks.
So what are the symptoms and complications?
Most patients will complain about sort of a heaviness on the head, mild headache or persistent headache. Some people do complain about dizziness as well. But I think the most important thing to understand is the actual complications of it. As I mentioned, the vessel effect, but it can also, because the heart actually has to pump more, it's like a bodybuilder pumping up more of the blood of the muscle. So the heart muscle actually changes, and it actually causes the pump malfunction of the heart. So your heart pumps worse. So you get like a cardiac failure and also aneurysms. That's the other thing.
Okay, so there must be a way to treat hypertension. Tell us more about the treatment.
Okay, so your treatment comprises basically about lifestyle modifications and medication. Lifestyle modifications would sort of include stuff like weight reduction and diet, stop smoking, alcohol, limit your alcohol and limit your salt intake as well. And then your antihypertensives that you sort of can start on. So, and then we obviously monitor your blood pressure every 3 to 6 months.
Okay, shukran Dr. Nehal for that enlightening information about hypertension, and I look forward to having you back with us next time.
It's my pleasure, and thank you so much for having me.
From health and wellness to something that will tantalize your taste buds, let's find out what's cooking.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to An Nur. Chicken. We all eat chicken all of the time. We never have enough chicken recipes. So today I'm going to show you something interesting to make with chicken using prunes and amchur. So what is amchur? Amchur is mango powder and it doesn't have a very distinctive taste, but what it does do is it adds a nice earthy dimension to the food. So what I'm using today is 1 kilo of breast fillets. You could use deboned chicken thighs, and if you prefer your chicken on the bone, that's absolutely fine as well. Added to that, I've got a tablespoon of crushed garlic, salt to taste, I've got some oil, and that's just for braising my onions, black pepper, then I've got the amchur powder, which you can see is a nice sort of brown, earthy color, and it smells quite earthy as well. And then my aromatics, I've got some stick cinnamon, I've got 2 cloves and 3 allspice. And then just to add the extra dimension of sweetness to the dish, I've got pitted prunes, 3 onions, and I've got 2 chilies that I've just cut along the length so we can get all the flavors out of there. So the first thing we're going to do is heat up our oil and braise our onions until they're golden brown. So my pot is nice and warm, and the first thing I'm going to do is just dry roast my cinnamon, my allspice, and my cloves until I can actually smell it, because that way I know the flavor's been released. So just give this a few seconds, and the cinnamon almost instantly you smell. And I'm adding to this my oil, and into this the onions and the green chilies. And just a light sprinkling of salt, just to get the onions to break down quickly and get all the juices out. My onions are caramelized, they're nice dark golden brown. So what I'm going to do now is literally add everything else. The first is the chicken. I'm using about 1 kilogram, but if you like the wetter meats, deboned thighs are really, really good as well. So get this moving around so the chicken can take on some color. Okay, so in's gonna go the garlic and the amchur powder. And I'm literally only adding a teaspoon. You don't need much of that, but loads of garlic is always a nice thing. Okay, so I've got some black pepper, my salt, and our prunes. So you'll hardly see this at the end of the dish because it literally cooks down and almost vanishes, but it adds a nice sort of fruitiness and it adds good texture to it as well. So I'm not going to add any water at this stage. I'm going to pop the lid back on, let the flavors intensify, and later on I'll add a little bit of water. You know that your chicken's done when it's soft and tender and your prunes have gone all soft and gooey, and then you're ready to serve. So I'm just going to plate this into a bowl. This is divine with yellow rice, which is my preference, but a lot of people just like it with sweet, with white rice. You can have it with naan bread, and you can even have it with roti. So the choice is entirely yours. And with nothing more than just a sprig of coriander, you're good to go. So until next time, Assalamu alaikum.
That's our show for this week. I'd like to take this time to wish each and everyone a blessed Ramadan. As is customary, next week we'll be focusing quite a bit on the month ahead, so please do tune in. From me, Mara Mukwanda, Salang Handle, Assalamu alaikum.